Welcome back to Jennifer Broussard Art. Today we will use watercolor to loosely paint this beautiful peacock butterfly. Photo by Mr. Gajawi 3 on Pixabay. You can find the outline on my Patreon channel, link in the description. I will use this 8x8 block of New York Central 100% cotton watercolor paper, 3 primary colors by DaVinci, Red Rose Deep, Arylide Yellow FGL, and Phthalo Blue, and at the end some metallics to really make our butterfly sparkle. Let's get started. Background all around the outside of the butterfly. Looks like there's some blue in my brush. That's okay. I'm going to go right over the head since the background is going to have yellow and the head is brown, so it will be okay. It's okay to put light color over where you're going to paint dark because it's darker. Does that make sense? Such an eloquent description of that. So here I am just wetting outside, trying to get it in each little curve. And then since I'm working on down here, this is probably drying off. It's actually looking pretty nice. And while I let that absorb, I'm going to get out a little bit of yellow. It's a really bright, I want to say it's a zinnia flower right behind the butterfly. So I'm just going to go swoosh. I'm going to try to leave some white of the paper. Okay, same over here. Just do some like swooshes. Let's see. It's pretty much at the end of the paper, at the edge, so I'm just going to fill it in. And then down here I'll do some swooshes. I'm going to go a little bit darker with the value now. Want some variety in the yellow wash. And then right up next to the butterfly, we have some shadow. So I'm going to indicate a little bit of shadow. I think this looks pretty. Okay, over here it's pretty monotonous. I'm going to just add a little more yellow to indicate that there are petals. Okay, that looks good. And now to show just a little bit of shadow, I'm going to add, what am I going to add? A little bit of red. I'm not loving that, so I'm going to add yellow to that and make sort of an orangey red there. I'm not going to put it under everything. I'll just skip around and add it here and there. I want to do this while the paper is still wet. It's not showing much shadow at the top, it's more down here. I'm going to add a little blue just out here in a few little spots, just to suggest some foliage. A little bit up here. It's very pale. I still want the white of the paper to show. And I think I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, now I've got my number 4, and I'm going to just paint in these little side yellow patches here and let it dry, and then later on we will add in the dark vertical pieces. I've been thinking about how I want to tackle all of the sections of this butterfly and how these big, beautiful, colorful spots here and here are really what everybody looks at. The rest of it is kind of, oh, that's there too. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the bright parts first, the red, and then, you know, this is probably going to have metallic on it, and then I'll fill in with the brown. So I'm going to start with this one. I just got that wet. I'm going to go around, actually I'm going to go through this one and out to the outermost edge. I'm going to go around these white spots. I'm going to get some yellow. I'm going to add that in over here. I'm going to go right through this. There's just a little bit. And then I'm going to get some phthalo blue. That's a lot. I'll put it up here. It's okay if it goes over the line, because that's going to be black. I'm going to add, I'm going to make a little purple, that color, and put that, that's not very, I want it to be more pink. There we go. And then just sort of blend all these guys. I want some more yellow over here to push that back away. A little more of, I'm going to add a little more red to this purple. I want it to be a pinky purple. I'm going to add a little bit here, and it comes up between these two white ones, and soften it. And then this blue actually comes all the way over to here. I don't think I got enough water on this. We want to refrain from getting down here. We want to keep that white. And I like the effect here, so I'm going to leave all that the way it is. And I'm going to make a dark. Okay, we're going to make an orange. I'm going to put the dark in the middle. I'm going to get some, make a lot of it because we're going to need it. I'm going to get some fresh red rose deep. And I'm going to make an orange, get some yellow. Well, actually, we're making a red. And then some blue to darken it. And there's a purpley brown, a little bit more blue. Okay, and see how that doesn't really move? That's very thickly pigmented paint, and I'm going to take that, I don't know if this is still wet. I'm going to actually use my number 2 and wet this area again. This paper is, it dries really fast. I'm not in a dry environment anymore, as you know. And this paper particularly dries pretty quickly, which could be a good thing. So now I'm going to take this black and go all along the outside and let it flow. I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, I'm just going to take it down a little further. Get my little number 2 and fade it out right there. I'm going to leave that like that. Now we're going to come over to this one and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wet over the dark shape and I'm going to come all the way out to the edge. And I'm going to wet around the white shapes. Okay, now I'm going to get some of the phthalo blue and dot it in up here. I'm going to bring some of this purple around this white spot, a little bit more pink, and then around this white spot. Just let the water take it away, and then a little bit next to this white spot. I'm going to add the yellow down here. A little bit more. And I'm going to get some of the pink and put it, there's supposed to be a spot here, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and put that. It's pretty dark, but I'm just going to save its place right there, and I'm going to take and put a line like that and a line like that. And we're going to let that dry once we put on the dark. Okay, and we're going to let those two dry. Now while these two are drying, I'm going to go down to these two. I'm going to use my number 2 and I'm going to wet the whole shape. I'm going to use the phthalo blue down here. And a little bit of purple up here. And I'm going to take the dark and go around the outside, the entire outside, except for right there at the bottom. Sorry if this is going out of focus. Okay, I'm going to make this round. Don't know why that's like that. And then this is coming in like this, and there's a little bump right here. A little more dark. And then we go around the outside edge. And I'm going to try to lift that little bit of highlight right there with a damp brush. And I'm going to leave it like that. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to try to get this up. There, that looks better. A little more blue. All right, same thing over here. Wet the whole thing. Now see this weird shape right here? This is, underneath it is black. But then all of this up here is blue or purple. So I'm just going to wet above it. I'm going to add the blue right down the middle. I'm going to add some of the pink purple. That's pretty wet, so I'm going to let that sink in for a minute before I add the dark. I'm going to add some of this down here. I think I can go ahead and do down here at least. It is pretty, it's like it's a soft edge right here, but I'm not going to fiddle. I want this to look really nice and fresh, so I'm not going to fiddle around and overwork it. If I can make it soft later, I will. But for the time being, I'm just going to leave it how it is. Okay, now I'm going to go around the outside. Get a little more. Get that dark value going. And then it's even coming in there. All right, let's wait for those to dry. So while we're waiting for these two to dry, these are pretty dry. They're dry to the touch. So I'm going to make a nice pretty red. We're getting some red rose deep, pretty thick. And adding some yellow. A little more. And now we have a really pretty red. I want to add more pigment to that. And a little more yellow. A little more. Okay, now I'm going to paint. So I added a line right there for that little yellow patch and a line right there for the little yellow patch, whitish yellow. So now I'm going to just paint this whole thing red. Go around the white spots. It's okay if you go over this because it's black. Now I'm just going to soften this. Finish the red, and then I'll make a little bit of a brown. I am going to soften this. And then to make a brown, you do an orange. I'll do it over here. A little bit of, there we go, and then a little bit of blue. And that's a pretty good red, why can't I talk? A brown color for right here. There. Add in a little bit of dark. Let's do the same thing on the other side. Get some of the red that we made. And you can barely see them, but they're there. There's a white spot there and a white spot there. I'm going to go around them. And I was thinking about this. I think I better add a little yellow in here. It's got some gold flecks and it looks really pretty, and I want to make sure we have the yellow in there. Okay, I'm going to add yellow here. Add a little bit of the brown. And then call it good. Okay, these two are interesting because there's some red down here and some of that yellow golden flecks up here, and in between it all is some brown. So that's going to be interesting. It's going to be all wet and wet. I'm wetting this shape right here. Actually, I'm going to wait until it dries because this is this whole shape and it's next to the wet that we just did. So I'll be back. Okay, it's dry. I'm going to wet everything but that band right there. I'm going to come all the way down to this line and fill in all in next to the body. I'm going to start with the yellow, or make sure this has some yellow in it. And I'm going to put in some of the brown. And then I'm going to dot that brown around in the yellow. I'm going to get some of the red. I'm going to make a little more. I'm going to let that soak in for a minute and make a little more red. Okay, and now I'm going to just make sure that those curves are defined, and bring this red up into the shape. Okay. That was easier than I thought it would be. I'm actually going to put a little more brown in between there. I'm going to make a little more of this brown because I don't want to run out right in the middle of painting something. So let's make our orange and add our blue teeny bit. Okay, so let's wet. Next to there's this shape right here. Don't wet that. To the band, and then in here. Now I'm going to get the yellow and put it here. And it kind of goes along there. I'm going to get some of the brown, put it throughout here, and I'm going to put it in here. And now for the red. When you let go of doing so many details, this becomes just very relaxing. There, I'm going to leave that just like that and let it dry. Arylide. I'm going to just put some little dots of water. Make that be a little more disturbed so it has a little more texture in there. Okay, now we'll let it dry. And now since these are dry, we can do this black part and this little section here. So it's very pale. I'm just gonna, right in here, I'm going to put a little bit of the brown right here in the corner, because that's what I see. And I'm going to put a tiny bit of yellow. Same thing over here. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to make it a little bit yellow and call it good. Here's a little bit of brown. There. I smushed it around a little bit. I don't think I got close enough to that with the red. So there, okay. Now I don't think we can work on anything else until everything is dry. Now I'm going to do the black spots right here. And I'm going to soften those. Damp brush. And now I'm going to do the little dividers on these yellow sections here. I'm just going to kind of go up and down haphazardly. Same here. It's like putting a puzzle together, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to actually go around the outside. Okay, I'm going to make another dark. And for that we need more red. And we don't need any more blue, but we do need more yellow. Or I do. Okay, I'm going to make it right here next to the dark so that I get the right proportions, and I'll just smush it all together. Okay, oh, that's a really pretty red. I think I'm going to actually put some of that here. Just scribble it in. That's pretty. Okay, what was I doing? I was making it dark. I'm going to get some more blue. Add it to that. Now we've got a pretty good purple going. A little more yellow. It's still kind of purple. I don't know if you can tell. I want it to be more neutral. So a little more yellow. I think it might need a little more. If I do red, it's going to turn more purple, so I'm going to put more blue. And that's what we want. All right, I'm going to go through and do all the darks. And I'm going to do the light brown around the edge last. So we did that one. We're going to do this one. I'm using my number 4. Going to get it on there, and then I'm going to use my number 2 to soften, I think. And I want this to look a little bit like that, I guess. Okay, I'm going to take my number 2 and soften it over here. I think I'm just going to soften it. Oh, I didn't want that to happen. I think it was just too wet to soften. Okay, adding more dark in there, get it nice and dark. And then there's a little bit out here. Just let it kind of travel. I'm gonna do this again. And I'm gonna soften it. All right, over here, I'm going to use my number 4, fill in this big spot. Gonna just dab in more pigment, make it be nice and dark. And now I'm going to soften this. Look how that just came right out like it was supposed to. And now I'm going to add more up here. And I'm going to soften a little bit out here. And then a little bit in here. Okay, now we have to do the dark. So this is supposed to be dark right here, and then a dark red next to it. So I'm going to put the dark red. I am going to add a little bit of the dark to this little puddle of red right here. I'm going to add more red to that. Okay, now we have sort of a maroon color, which is exactly what we want right here. And then we have dark right next to that. I'm going to sneak up next to it and put that dark right there. And you can see just the very tiniest line, and I just sort of moved it. And hopefully it won't do too much more than that. Now with a damp brush, I'm going to drag. I'm going to get this flat. I like to do this, splay it, so that I get sort of a flat shape on it, and I can drag out some of this. I'm going to get some more red. That black's creeping in. And then this red comes up, actually comes out pretty far, and then it comes up kind of next to that and then through there. Same thing over here. So we have, this is the shape for the dark, and then next to it we have the dark red. And it's going like that, and like that. And I want to put a little bit of this yellow here. And now I'm going to get the dark. And it's kind of coming in from the edge, sneaking right up onto that red. And I'm going to soften here and bring some of it out. There. Just introduced a ton of water in there, which is okay. Okay, we're going to work on this one. It just needs more dark, I think. Don't forget, we're going to do metallics. So I'm just going to go around, darken this. Soften the inside. This isn't such a hard shape. I'm going to add a little more dark to it. This is getting softened. All right, let's do the same over here. Soften it. This is a lot like what I would do on a Patreon tutorial. I guess you can consider this a taste of what it is like. It's step by step. I had meant for it to be a YouTube tutorial, and it's becoming more of a Patreon tutorial. It's real life, real time, voiced over. I'm not voicing over, but I am narrating as I paint. So if you want to try my Patreon channel, there is a link in the description for a 7-day free trial. Okay, now I'm done with all of the pretty little spots. Now I'm going to make brown. I'm going to make more brown than this. I'm going to introduce a little more of the yellow, a little more red. Oh, that just turned it green. Okay, more red. A little more yellow. Okay, I think that is, it's too red. I'm going to add a little more blue. A little more. Okay, and that's a nice diluted puddle there. I'm going to just go ahead and fill in the whole body. I'm going to do a darker area here once it's dry. We're just going to glaze right over it. This is more of a burgundy, so I'm going to take it off. Okay, that's better. I'm going to add more yellow to that. There we go. That looks better. I'm not doing this light part yet because it's lighter than the body and it's lighter than the red, so I'm going to wait. Just meaning that we're not going to be glazing that part. I like how that burgundy is kind of sitting there and adding variety to the color. Now this brown kind of comes in here and it kind of fills in the areas that don't, you know, like the spaces between the shapes. It kind of goes in here. And this guy has some little, they look like ears, but I don't think they're ears. Okay, now I'm going to just add some of this, add more red to that. Nope, more yellow. There we go. That's a good color. Now I'm going to do I'm going to take some of the dark and go over here. There's hair, I don't know if it's hair, maybe it's wings. I don't know what this stuff is on this butterfly. I don't know anatomy on the butterfly, but they're not mammals, so it's not hair. So I'm just kind of dabbing in some colors, keeping the background color peeking through. I'm going to leave that like that. And add a little yellow right here. All right, I think I need to dry everything. No, I need to do this dark right here. I didn't do this. Put some over here. Such a pretty butterfly. Okay, I'm going to use a damp brush and soften that. Right here. Gotta get that brush nice and damp, almost dry, or you introduce too much water. I'm gonna add a little more pigment to this. We made so much dark and I'm almost out. All right, now I'm going to use the brown. I am not going to dry it. I'm going to let the brown touch the black up there, and I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to soften it. I'm going to keep that white separation point right there. I'm going to do the same thing down here. There's a little bit of the brown coming through here, and I'm going to soften that. Damp brush. Okay, same thing over here. We're going to get the brown here next to the dark. Damp brush and soften. And I'm going to do the same thing next to the shape. And a damp brush, clean damp brush to soften it. Keeping that little white area. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Damp brush. Okay, now same thing here. Just wetting the whole area. And I am going to go ahead and put this dark right here, not dark, brown. I'm just going to put the brown here and let it go in to the water. Just sop some of that up. Get some brown out here on the edge. I'm going to try to redefine the shape of the wing here. And it comes all the way, this whole thing is filled in. There is light between here and the edge, and I'm losing my water there. So I'm going to go ahead and get the dark and add it out here while I still have damp paper. Nice sharp little points here. That's not very sharp. There. Okay, and now I'm going to get some of the brown, and I'm going to do this thing again. The dark brown. And now some light brown and go across here. Okay. Now let's do the last part. You know what you're doing by now. Okay, let's get some of the lighter brown. Some of the darker brown that's mixed with the dark. I'll go all the way around and define this wing shape. And I'm going to go up and down or side to side. So I didn't press record, or I did press record and it didn't start. That happens sometimes. So all I'm doing is I'm making some of the red go on the brown and some of the brown go on the red by disturbing some of the pigment and getting it wet and then just adding it in. Sometimes it dries with a hard edge, so you just wiggle a damp brush along that hard edge, like right here. I did that right around here. And see that very, very pale brown that's on the red? There's a little, I'm going to put just a little bit of red on the brown. And then soften that. Okay, now I think we are ready. Actually, I think I need to get a little bit of orange in here. I took a little too much off of that red part. Before I start using metallics, I am going to check values, and I'm going to do these little antenna. So I have my number 2, and I'm doing the thing where I splay it out into the pigment, and then I pick it up and it's got sort of an edge to it. It's not a round anymore, it's sort of a tiny flat. So I'm gonna go for it. You just have to commit. And move the paper so that you are in a comfortable way to move your arm. Light pressure. Here. Okay, I want to deepen the value right here and add a little bit more of the body. And I want to add some more of these little C shapes on top of the body. I am going to soften this. I want to put a little bit of a C shape here. And I'm not going to go nuts and put eyes or anything. I'm just going to leave it like that. And then in terms of values, I think our reds are looking really good. This could probably be a deeper red. Get a little bit of orange, yellow. Get a nice vibrant red, and I'm going to do just on the dry paper, add a little more. I think I will do that here too. And I think this could be a little brighter. Right here. Okay, I'm going to soften some of that. Damp brush. A little bit more in here. It's looking a little washed out. And then this dark here is looking really washed out. Let's see if I have enough left. And then next to that red, it's a pretty hard line. I'm going to also deepen this one. Okay, a damp brush. Soften. I find it's better to soften going into the shape rather than on the outside of it. And now it's running. It's fine. Everything's fine. Has a little bit of brown around it. Here's where I could go nuts and keep adding things and fiddle. I'm going to be respectful of your time and not go too crazy. Now I'm going to do some metallics. I have this set. I've had it for a long time. If you don't have metallics, it's okay. I think this is beautiful exactly the way it is. We could be done, and this could be put in a frame. But to add a little more specialness to it, I'm going to add a little bit of sparkle. Now, I had sprayed these about 10 minutes ago, and I guess I didn't realize that you had to actually mix the water in. So I'm going to get some of this green going. Yeah, a little bit of green. Look at that beautiful blend right there. Isn't that pretty? I'm going to add some of that there. I'm going to add some of the blue here. I'm going to add some of this yellow. Right in here. Next to that green. And I'm going to come out here with the yellow. God, that's so pretty. It just really brings it out, that special sparkle that's right there. I am going to get, let's see, we don't really have, how about this one? This one's sort of pink lilac, it says. I want to add a little sparkle to the purple too. Okay, let's do that over here. I'm going to add some of the lilac since I already have it on. Add some of the blue right over that black. I'm going to add some of the green right here next to this yellow. This makes me want to order a set that's more vibrant. These are more muted metallics. These are the only ones I have. But I think I really want to get a set that is more primary colors, like regular, not muted down colors. I think that would be really pretty. Okay, now I'm going to use this in here. I'm just going to tap it in. I'm not finished with this. I'm going to actually do more to it, these two sections here. So I'm tapping in the gold, adding a little bit down here. I'm going to tap some in over here. Okay, same here. I don't want to cover up that beautiful blend there. I just want to add a little something on top. And then I also want to add some of that up here. Okay, and there's some little sparklies on the body. At the bottom part. Okay, there. Now let's go down to these two. I'm going to get some of the, try some of this. This says green pearl. Oh, that is so pretty. I want some of that up here. It almost seems white. Like I could probably put that in the white spots. I'm going to put some of that over here. Get some of the green and add it down here. I do want to do that. I want to add some of this to these white spots. And now to finish this area, I'm going to get some of the dark and just tap some of that in. All the way down into here. And I think that's going to be good. Less is more. A little bit more black right here and right there. I'm going to just deepen some of this here. And now so you can see the metallics? I'm going to darken. I'm going to just do this. I'm using sort of the edge of the brush and flicking it in like I'm doing grass. I'm going to do some of that over here. And this is how you do layers. Make sure I'm making these go the right direction. Okay, a little bit in here. This one ended up being pretty light, so. And I'm not even going to soften, I'm just going to let it be hard. Okay, a little bit in here. That's a little too dark. Too much contrast. Okay, now since this looks like it's just in the middle of a yellow blob instead of a yellow flower, I'm going to do a little bit of negative painting. I'm not going to make it really complicated. I'm just going to draw kind of a flower shape around the butterfly and fill it in. Fill the outside part in. You see what I did? I just made blobs on the outside. I'm going to make a green. Get some blue. I don't know why it's beating up like that. Let me zoom out so you can see. I'm on a ceramic plate and it's beating up. I'm not really getting why it's doing that. Some yellow. It needs a little more yellow. And the green behind it is pretty, it's like a pretty bright spring green. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow. So now I'm just going to paint outside this. And it might give it just enough suggestion of being on a flower instead of on a yellow blob floating somewhere in space. I have not mastered negative painting. I can do the basics. It's one of the things that's on my list to learn and become good at. I'm going to add a little blue to over here. Maybe vignette it a little bit. Add a little shadow in the background. And you don't have to do this. You can do a flower if you want to. You have the reference photo. You can print out the reference photo. You can put it on top of your watercolor paper and then trace. Put some carbon paper underneath and trace it. Okay, so that's good. Actually, let me add some of this gray. There. Okay, now I'm going to come, well, this is not drying at the same rate, so I'm going to fix that. I don't really want a cauliflower there. I'm going to get some of the lighter green and finish up here. And I'm going to call that good. We are done. I really enjoyed this painting and I hope that you did too. Please remember to hit like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I'll see you next time.